Okay, guys, let's get started. It's 1:03, and if you'll join a little bit late, that is a-okay. So before we get started, I want to thank you guys for attending yet another episode of School of Commerce. This is yet another lesson. We're excited to share with you what we're about to talk about today. Just to give you a brief overview, if this is your first School of Commerce lesson, we'll be talking for about 20 minutes, give or take, and then we'll be doing a live question and answer period at the end of the discussion. So if you have questions, please feel free to submit them as we're chatting, and we will get to them at the end of the lesson. The other thing I wanted to mention is that if at any point you experience technical difficulties and you have a hard time hearing me, just submit a question and let us know, and we will try to get that fixed so that you don't miss too much of the lesson. So without further delay, let's get started. So today we're going to be, it's lesson 9, we're going to be talking about social media ad buying. It's something that a lot of stores have reached out to us and asked us to talk about because, as we all know, every store owner should be on social media, should be active on social media, and should be using social media to market their stores. But a question that often comes up is, when should you start looking at paid advertising? Or if you're already on social media, should you start looking at paid advertising now or in the future? You've no doubt read articles, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, about how Facebook and other social networks have made it hard for you to reach your audience free, and they're kind of forcing you to pay for that. So we're going to talk about strategies and where you should go from here. So today, I'm very lucky to have Moody, who is the head of growth for Mute6, join me today. Mute6 is our Bold Commerce's partner for paid advertising. So we work with Mute6 a lot to send our clients to them for paid advertising. So we think they have a great service, and we definitely trust and rely upon them. They are a one-stop shop for customer acquisition, from high converting video creative to full campaign management. They provide everything you need to know to grow your business and store online. And I think they are the perfect guest to have on today to talk about social media advertising with us. So, hey, Moody, it's great to have you on with us.
Hey, glad to be here. Excited about today.
Perfect. It's a pleasure. So, Moody, let's get right down to it. So I wanted to start about talking with you about when you think that e-commerce stores should start looking at paid advertising on social media.
Yeah, so e-commerce stores right off the bat should be looking at paid advertising almost immediately and as soon as possible as they can. And when people are pretty scared to just dive into paid advertising right away, but immediately you can create audiences based off of people who have already visited your site or have gotten down your funnel and maybe gotten close to purchasing. And an easy way to get started and dip your toe into the pool of paid advertising is with remarketing strategies. And it won't cost you a lot, and you'll actually see a benefit and a return almost immediately.
So just to dumb it down a little bit, can you talk a little bit about remarketing and kind of what that means?
Sure. So when we talk about remarketing, it's usually people who visited your site and have not purchased, or maybe if it's mostly in e-commerce, in this case it's going to be purchased or taken some sort of action. So remarketing in Facebook terms, and a lot of the strategies we're going to talk about today are mainly around Facebook. That's really 80% of our business, is creating an audience of people who've come to your site and haven't purchased or taken an action, and then going back out and running advertisements to them to get them to convert.
No, that makes perfect sense. And of course, I think when anyone's looking at spending ad money, they're of course looking at spending it in a way that they're going to get the best return of investment. And that sounds like customers who've come to your store are likely already interested. So it's smart to invite them back to your store with a promotion or some sort of advertisement, for sure.
Right.
So, we've mentioned Facebook a few times, but one thing I wanted to ask you is from social media perspective, what are the platforms, or what is the platform that you think is the most relevant for e-commerce, or provides the best suite of tools to allow people to use that for e-commerce?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be your Facebook and Instagram, and moving forward when we talk about Facebook, Instagram is just kind of tied into it, um, at least at the high level. So Facebook is definitely the most important platform that you have to be on, and it's because with e-commerce, when you create an advertisement on Facebook, there's so much opportunity for social proof and engagement, and people begin to share and tag their friends, and there's a conversation piece that happens on your advertisement, and it moves away from being like a banner ad that you would see on any other website, or display, for instance, and it becomes a almost like a community, a living thing that helps promote your products, and sell your products and bring people back to your site.
Yeah, and it's great that you mentioned Instagram, because I have noticed. I used to do a bit of social media advertising. I say back in the day, so a couple years ago, but in online terms, that feels like a long time ago. And I guess it was back before Instagram had been bought by Facebook, and I know that there wasn't a lot of features or ways that a Shopify store could really start creating ads. But now it seems that Instagram's really added a lot more features, and they've obviously integrated with the Facebook ad platform, and it's way easier to create ads. And actually, if I remember, it's almost like a default option is just to publish your ads on Instagram as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's 100% a default option, and anytime you upload an ad to Facebook, it's the same ad runs in Instagram, and there's a slight differences in terms of what image, like the image size, but most of the time now we're creating video. So anytime we create a video for a Facebook ad, it's usually in a one by one format, and that actually fits perfectly for Instagram as well. And Facebook automatically, uses the same sort of ad specifications, whether it's your copy, the link where you're driving the traffic, and automatically uploads it to Instagram. And Instagram's come a long way, because before Facebook bought it, there were no ads, and even when Instagram first started doing advertising, it was a really soft, slow rollout, and I don't know if you remember, but there was like a beta, and you couldn't even, it was just branding, it was just brands were allowed on it, and it was just you couldn't really do much, until at least I think a year into the Instagram beta is when they finally opened it up and made it as similar to Facebook as it is now.
Yeah, it was definitely an example of one company buying another where it really made sense, and it kind of elevated both of them. You
Yeah, it's
you
really
men-
come a long way.
Yeah, you mentioned video, and that's something that I don't want to. I definitely want to chat about. And a lot of store owners are, they come to us and they ask about, well, what's the best value? Like, where, what platform should I use for best value? So I'd like to ask, between Instagram and Facebook, where you see the most value in. But also, as far as like the actual content itself, like, do you see better value from images or from video? I'd be curious to see to get your thoughts on that.
Yep. So, when in terms of making video for Facebook, I mean, it's a must. It's a must for any e-commerce store, that they should be running video ads in Facebook. They just do so much better, and it gives you a chance to really sell an item without having a user, move over to your website, and to learn more about it, right? So, like, immediately in their newsfeed, they're starting to see and understand what your products are, and really, there's two types of video strategies. There's video made for high SKU count stores, like Nordstrom's, or any big brand, any big apparel brand that's selling, thousands of SKUs. That type of video strategy is going to be more around creating a lifestyle, creating an image for your brand, and uh, just having a more of an awareness top of funnel strategy there. Um, the other type of video strategy are for products with like one store products. Maybe it's just one item that they're selling, whether it's iPhone cases or some sort of demonstratable product that you might see on QVC or Home Shopping Network. Those type of products that really solve a problem in some way. Those type of videos you want to essentially create a sales pitch and go through the process of using the product, what it does, the value points of it, and we've got a whole template that we use here in strategies for actually both types of e-commerce stores. So I kind of just started riffing there. I'm not sure if I really answered your question, but hopefully there's a little good amount of value I was able to give you there.
I definitely think so. And you brought up a good point. You had mentioned that you know each store is different, and obviously it's impossible to say, okay, go Instagram and go video, for example, because it's going to give you the best value, because every store is different and every product is different and has to be marketed in a different way. And you had sent over a couple of examples of clients that you'd worked with that are kind of positioned differently because of the products they sell. One of which is you mentioned was pre-heels. Do you maybe want to talk a little bit about them and kind of how you approached advertising for them?
Yeah, so Pre-Heals is a anti-blister spray, really cool product. Girls who wear heels all the time, like there's a lot of shoe friction that's happening, and then eventually they get blisters, and it's just really, really painful. This spray creates a barrier around the skin, and anytime there's some sort of friction between a shoe and the skin, as long as there's Pre-Heals on your feet, you actually create a guard there, so it stops them from getting blisters, and we call it an anti-blister spray. And this we actually had a lot of difficulty when they first came on board with us because we didn't have the right video assets made, and so we went out and we were actually just running banner ads back then. I think this was maybe about a year ago, and really trying to sell the product and help people understand the concept. And it wasn't until we introduced video of people spraying it on, trying it, talking about it, getting some excitement around using it, showing it, explaining how it's good for people who are going to work and are on their feet all day, but also people who want like a night out on the town and not have to the people who end up outside of the club wearing their heels or actually holding their heels and walking around barefoot. That's kind of the perfect crowd for this product. And we captured all of those concepts in the video, really explaining it, and that was actually something that for us really went viral and drove a ton of conversions to pre-heels. And actually one of the videos that we started with still runs today, and I think it's around 15 million views now. So um, in digging a little bit deeper into what it takes to make that video, you want to build a video that, and this is more strategy and guidelines, but a video that's one by one in format because it takes more screen, it takes more real estate on the screen to see, and when someone's scrolling through on mobile, they'll see a big box instead of seeing, a tiny rectangle 9 by 16 video. And then also you have to assume that most videos being watched in mute and on silent. So what you're going to do is actually you're going to put your sales points in a text format and overlaying on the video, and make it really simple to understand and digest. And yeah, I mean that's the format we use for most of our clients who fit that kind of product here.
No, and I mean that's you mentioned content. And I think that that you can spend all the time on creating an ad that is targeted towards a certain kind of audience, but if the content of the ad is not professional and quality, it won't convert well. Because I've noticed that a lot with social media ads because it's so easy to get going. People will create ads, they'll put an ad budget in, they'll create a quick little audience, but then the actual ad itself looks like child's play, and it doesn't really. I doubt it attracts buyers. It certainly turns me off because it looks like the brand is not really investing a lot of time or money into their advertising.
Yeah, you hit a really big point there. So what happens too, in a lot of the forums and people who first get into trying to understand how to buy media on Facebook, they all look at the strategies in terms of targeting. They look at bidding strategies. They look at different like ad placements and trying to understand there. And yeah, I mean those things are important. But at the end of the day, you as a store, you're a person running this business, and you're selling to people who are looking for either a really nicely branded product or some sort of solution to their problems. And so your content has to be personal, and has to really be something that you spend a lot of time on, because at the end of the day, it's people selling to people. It doesn't really matter, and it obviously it does, but if I can get people to stop focusing on the strategies to buy media and focusing more on how to make their site and products and creative better, that's where the big wins happen.
No, makes complete sense. Another example I wanted to talk about, and obviously this is like the other end of the spectrum, was you spent some time talking about a product that is the only product in a store, stores that have very few SKUs. But if we flip to the other side of the spectrum, where stores that have a ton of different products, and you said over one example that was MeUndies.com. What are the challenges of a store that have tons of different products?
So MeUndies makes really, really soft underwear. They're awesome. Go buy some. This isn't, I guess this is a plug for MeUndies now. But essentially, the strategy with apparel companies with lots and lots of items, there's a couple cool things you could do. For instance, there's like DPA ads where it automatically dynamically, this is like remarketing tactics, and essentially you can dynamically insert in the products that people visit into ads. So if they visited a certain product, they'll be scrolling Facebook and see that product again and remind them that they could get it, or they could potentially add a discount there and incentivize them to check out. The biggest thing about, again, apparel companies is that you really got to reinforce the lifestyle. You have to be, if you're a fun company, then your images and creative have to be fun. I mean, that you see that GIF right there where she's pulling up her pants, that's actually an ad that's running on Facebook as well, and is doing really, really well. And it's just exciting. It's bold. It really captures what MeUndies is. Um, yeah, that one. It's so funny. Um, just people pulling up their pants. But yeah, it's and it just reinforces the brand. Yeah, other apparel companies will do lifestyle shots. Maybe we've got like we're in Southern California, so we've got like a couple of surfboard and streetwear brands, and it's kind of great because this whole place is a jungle, and we can shoot at the beach, we can shoot in weird alleys with graffiti everywhere. And luckily in LA, there's so much talent and people that we can just reach out to at any day and really, really shoot tons of video around different products like this. Um, but yeah, with branded products and advertising, it's tough from an acquisition standpoint. It's really easy from a remarketing standpoint. Um, and there's difference there, and the other thing we look at for highly branded companies and or apparel companies is like what kind of top of funnel strategies can we create for MeUndies. Like for instance, MeUndies, not only they spend money on Facebook, but they spend a lot of time and money on things like podcasts and getting influencers involved and building relationships with key celebrities who can promote the brand. And what happens is you get a bunch of traffic going through and awareness to the brand, and then we use a lot of our advertising strategies in recapturing the people who've maybe have heard about MeUndies but never bought something. And that warmer traffic that's coming through the funnel is just so much easier to capture and convert and make a profitable endeavor on Facebook than just cold traffic targeting. And we make both work, but it's really the 1-2 punch of getting influencers involved and getting celebrities involved with the brand, and making even video content around that, and getting somebody who's got a lot of social proof and just influence in your advertisements makes it a lot easier to sell.
No, totally. And you know, I think that the term influencer obviously is tossed around a lot nowadays, and the idea that people are a huge wide social span, they have a lot of friends and a lot of followers on Twitter, etc. And they use products and they tweet about them, and I think the reason why that works really well, at least in my opinion, is because it's real, and maybe I should say it's not fake. And when you showed me MeUndies, the thought that came to my mind was not necessarily how risque it was, but was that they're being themselves and they're not trying to say change ads just because they think these ads are going to sell more product. They have a brand and they're sticking to it and they're being themselves. And I think we all know that's the kind of stuff that does best on social media. So if I was going to give a tip to any store out there, I would just with your social media strategy, be you. Don't try to be somebody else for the sake of getting more sales. And you should just use advertising as a way to get more eyes, obviously, on your content. But the content-wise, still be yourself.
Yeah, choking on a glass of water here. Hold on. Excuse me. But yeah, so it's very important. And the other thing too is that you can make ads that are more designed to create engagement and go viral. You know who does this really well is Chubbies. If you've seen, are you familiar with Chubbies at all?
It sounds really familiar. We can see if we can get it pulled up here. What do you like about what they do?
Yeah, so Chubbies is a company that sells fun shorts. And I mean, it's really important to actually get into some of these companies' remarketing funnels because you'll start seeing their ads. And if anything, everyone should pay attention to their newsfeed. They should see what's going viral. They should see what's getting a lot of engagement, and people are really involved with. Because whether it's an advertisement or it's just content that's just popped into your newsfeed because a friend engaged with it, it's actually a very big clue in terms of how to build content for your brand. And that's a lot of, and what you can do is, and what I've done and what everyone here on our team does, is we start to save. You can actually right click on any ad in your newsfeed or any post in your newsfeed, and you can you could save the post, and you'll create a library of a ton of different videos. I mean, we've saved over 150 different videos that we've seen from competitors or just really smart, engaging ads. And so anytime we can actually reach in and actually see that and start to take our brands and apply different sort of templates we see in the newsfeed towards them. Back to Chubbies here, they've got really cool shorts. They run an ad in a newsfeed that's about the side effects of pants, and it's really funny. And essentially, they show what pants can do to you. Someone like trips and falls over a fence because their pants got caught or something like that. Another thing was like someone's pants get caught on fire because they're like too close to a bonfire. So it's really funny stuff, and that's true to the Chubbies brand. If you go to their Facebook page, you'll see some of these videos. And this stuff works as well as like creating something that's more built to get lots and lots of engagement, and then you can build retargeting strategies off of that. And I'm not sure exactly where your the people on the webinar that are listening at this point, how big they are, and because that's going to take a lot more money, to build a production team and get people supporting the brand constantly and thinking of new creative ideas like this. I mean, that's going to take a lot of money. So it's a good way to go. Not necessarily necessary in the beginning, but it's something to just kind of keep an eye on.
No, for sure. One thing I wanted to chat with you about, because this is something that comes up in social media all the time, especially lately, was I alluded to it earlier, the statement of you have to pay to play. So there's articles all the time. They're more prevalent and more common. Years ago when Facebook changed their algorithm, but the idea of you may spend all this time building this audience on Facebook and now Instagram, of course, and now it's really hard to reach your audience, or at least your whole audience, using free organic posts. And now they're pushing everyone to paid advertising. Like, what do you feel about the statement like you have to pay to play?
I mean, it's yeah, you can either pay to play or you can get really creative. You if you have really creative content, so that's the problem is that so many people, so many brands create content that's about them and not content that's about their audience. And building content that gets people to laugh, gets people to like, gives in some sort of way and gets people to share and engage is always going to be a winner. Um, I know another company that they sell like teeth whitening products, but they just post memes in their Facebook all day, and it's like that's their demographic. So their LinkedIn. I mean, if you want to pull them up, High Smile Teeth, check out their Facebook page really quick. And this is kind of fascinating, but they're not paying to play in any way.
Yeah, we're pulling them up now. But no, that's a good point. Obviously, you got to know your audience and you appeal to your audience because, as we most of us know, is the more likes you get on your posts and more engagements, and of course they show it to more people. So knowing your audience and going and creating content specifically for them is going to get you a lot farther. That's for sure.
Yeah, High Smile Teeth is hismileteeth.com. Check out their Instagram, but it's really interesting because they just sell teeth whitening products, but they do it in a socially fun way, and everyone on their Instagram is beautiful, and they really work out on influencer programs, and that's their, I guess, top of funnel strategy, and then once you visit their website, you'll actually get into their funnel, and you'll start seeing the type of ads that they run as well. Um, and yeah, you're in. You don't have to pay to play. You just gotta like find what's really working and try to figure out ways to copy that. Um, Again, we're less focused on the branding strategies of our clients. We're more of a performance agency, and what we care about is like how do we drive acquisition, and we're compensated accordingly. Us as an agency, we only make money if our clients are making money, and I mean, figuratively speaking, and it's that's our focus. There
So
you go.
so
So
you
their
know, you
Instagram is just beautiful people holding up the product, and they work with a lot of influencers to do this, and they have systems in place, and they really nurture their relationships with these influencers. And what happens is their influencers will post on their feed, and then they'll trade for a post here, and essentially it'll drive traffic to their website, and from there that's where they run their paid acquisition strategies if people don't convert right off the first instance.
yeah, these people have really nice teeth, so they're great advertisement for the product.
Isn't this amazing? This is amazing. I love this. Is like one of my favorite Instagram feeds, I think, in terms of how to position your product right and smart.
Well, yeah, and not to mention all the photography is pretty on point as well.
Yeah.
So obviously, Mute Six being an agency, one question I'd wanted to ask you for the stores out there who are, maybe are doing advertising right now in social media is, you know, at what point, should you start outsourcing social media advertising, or like what are the benefits to outsourcing your social media advertising to an agency such as Mute Six?
Yeah, I mean, with Mute Six, so it's a really interesting question. I can't say there's a definite number because sometimes like demonstratable products. This is a demonstratable product. It's actually it solves a purpose. It's also branded really really well, but it's also something that like there's before and afters. There's a product that there's value to it that's different than any sort of apparel company. Um, and this type of product, if brought to us, is something that we could essentially really scale fast and quickly because we know how to create top of funnel strategies using advertising to do it. If a company is ready to work with an agency, do they have their inventory put together? Because one of the biggest problems we have with our clients is that they run out of inventory, especially during Christmas when we're just blowing it out of the water. Um, The other thing is like how big are you now? Can you scale? Is it something that in the next six, can you, have you put your business together to scale? Do you have your customer service reps together? Is your fulfillment set? Are you just doing it in house at that point? At one point, you got to think if you're, and I'm trying to think of a number, like what's the right number in terms of how big you have to be to move into an agency. And I would say probably around, if you're doing like $10,000 in sales, it's probably a good time at that point, per month to, really look to an agency that can scale you. Um, yeah, I'd probably start there. Most of the clients that come on board with us maybe are spending around $30,000 a month on advertising, but with us, it's we're looking to scale only if you're getting a return, so that's something to think about. But we have clients that are spending well into the six figures, and some that are barely scraping the seven-figure range on a monthly budget. So that's something to think about, I guess, in terms of how big you have to be to move to an agency. Yeah, it's really hard to answer that question. um, because I
I
try to think of who do we turn away, like when people come to us and we're like, you know what, you're not necessarily ready yet. And it's people who don't necessarily have their inventory, like their inventory isn't ready to scale, or their business isn't ready necessarily to scale because, yeah, I hope that helps.
Well, I think one of the points there that you mentioned that definitely helps is for the stores out there, when you start looking at maybe switching to an agency for social media, being prepared to scale, because of course agencies such as Mute Six have the ability to really take your store and attract a large number of people to you who may end up converting, and if you're not prepared for that traffic, you're not prepared for all those orders. You should really focus on that before you're driving traffic to your store. And I think that is just a general rule of e-commerce. You should prepare your store, get ready to achieve success. If you can visualize success and you're gonna you envision all these people coming to your store, you have to be ready in case it happens. So I think that's I think that's a very, very good point.
Yeah, and exactly. So I mean that's kind of where you should be. Last thing you want is to scale too fast, and kind of get destroyed by too much sales too fast, which is like that's always a good problem to have, but it could cause some problems. And I'm the type of person who only really steps up when there's tons of pressure on board. So maybe if you're like me, then whatever, just run with it. But yeah, you definitely don't want to be in that position.
So one of the things I really wanted to chat with you about, and I think this is, maybe it's the most important question, was, about some of the metrics that Mute Six uses, and of course, store owners should use when measuring success of ad campaigns. What numbers are you looking at when you create ad campaigns on like Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest one is how am I getting a return on the ads that I'm running? And so the first thing I'm looking at is what sort of return on ad spend I've got. What's my cost per purchase? What's my average order value? Those kind of things. Higher in the funnel. If your item sells for $200, $300, and you can't afford to spend a lot of money to generate the learnings you need to optimize, you're going to look at how much it's costing to get someone to add to cart or visit a product page. That's also important and smart to optimize off of. And then all the way at the top of the funnel, how are my click-through rates? How are people engaging with these ads? We try to, I mean, since we're so conversion focused, we're looking for the ones that actually, the actions that tie to an event of a purchase. So the closer it is to that, that's what we're using to optimize.
For sure. And I think that, ultimately, if through social media ads you can find that people are, purchasing products, then you can figure out, your conversion rate and figure out what percentage of people who are going to your website are converting. And then, you can even use, numbers like lifetime value of clients. Is that something if you know the value of each of your customers, to kind of figure out how much is it costing you to get these customers, and are you spending more than they're worth? Old numbers that are relatively easy to find out, given that you have traffic and data to work off of course.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger established companies can look at stuff like that and really see what they're like. Because I mean, I imagine that most people that are in this webinar today are smaller in nature, or maybe just getting started, or maybe a year or two in, and it's hard to determine what your long-term value is going to be until you've got a long time of data. And what happens too is that once you scale, you start running email campaigns, and you got better retention campaigns, and you get a chance to learn a little bit more about your customers, and maybe you figure out other products to sell them that they like. And so as you scale, your LTV also goes up, which is very helpful. I mean, right off the bat, I'm looking for an immediate return on the dollars I'm spending, because I mean, at the end of the day, that's what I want. I want to be able to take that money out, put it back in, and keep flipping and growing as fast as possible.
For certain. Well, speaking of value, there's one thing I wanted to make sure we mentioned before we got to the end of the webinar, and that was the free social media app that we actually made, called Social Autopilot. So for any of you guys listening, if you have checked out this app before, great. If you haven't, it's available in the Shopify App Store. It's called Social Autopilot. You should see it on the screen now. It's completely free, and it allows you to auto post your new products to Twitter and to Pinterest. So it's a great way to allow you to market some new products. So go check that out. I want to remind anyone listening that we will be taking questions if anyone does have questions. I know we've gone a little bit longer than we normally do, but I still want to answer questions if there are any outstanding ones about social media, ad buying. Lastly, I want to give Moody, I just want to give you the chance to maybe talk about Mute 6 a little bit and what you guys do.
Yeah, so again, we're a digital marketing agency. All we care about is growth and performance. And really, we use Facebook ads, AdWords, native. We even do some podcasting, and we do some influencer outreach programs too. So, and also email, and also Pinterest. We didn't even talk about Pinterest. Limited volume in Pinterest, but some products are really right for Pinterest. At the end of the day, I think what makes us really different is that we control and touch the entire funnel. So we, we'll look at from the very beginning of the first interaction someone has with a brand or a company, and essentially we'll create the messaging and creative, and we're in LA, so we really leverage video. And all the way down to optimizing the media buy, the landing pages in which people are landing on, and really reducing friction and getting people all the way through the funnel, all the way to conversion. And I think that's what really makes us different, is that we focus on the entire funnel, and what we care about most is conversion and performance. So that's Mute 6. If you wanna work with us, I guess you could just reach out, and we can have a discussion and see if we're right fit for you. Really easy with us, and we can get into the details on a call someday. So that's kind of it for Mute 6. Other than that, you got to know that Mute 6 is got the most case studies on Facebook. Facebook really likes what we're doing. I think we have about 9 Facebook case studies in the last year written by Facebook. So really know what we're doing, and maybe we get to work together, and happy we can be of help today.
Well, that's awesome, and like I said earlier, you're a partner of ours, and we couldn't be happier with the work we sent your way, and our customers have come back saying great things about your work. So we're excited to be working with you in the future. Like I said, we've gone for a little bit longer, and I don't actually see any questions that are submitted yet, unless we get one coming in last. I think we must have covered it off pretty well. But Moody, this has been great. I think we kind of skimmed the surface on social media advertising. Hopefully, we answered some of the attendees' questions and thoughts they had about social media advertising. Maybe gave them some inspiration to get started. I think we probably could run another School of Commerce series about social media advertising because, like you said, we didn't get into Pinterest. There's a lot of other platforms and things that we could chat about. But if you do have any questions after the fact, you can feel free to reach out to me, Kevin at bullcommerce.com, and I can get you in touch with Moody or anyone else who might be able to answer your question. Second last, I want to mention that, again, 2 weeks from today, we're going to be having another School of Commerce series, so keep an eye out in your email inbox for that. And lastly, I want to thank Moody for joining me today. It was great having you on to talk about social media advertising, and you were able to bring about a lot of good points. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. So it's been really fun today. Glad you had me on board.
I appreciate it. Well, we'll be chatting soon, and hopefully everyone has a great weekend. Take it easy, guys.